Okay, so what if I told you that our entire picture of the Garden of Eden is, well, kind of incomplete? That the whole story doesn't actually start with Adam and Eve on earth, but with a massive rebellion in the very halls of heaven. Let's get into it.
This is the big question, right? Most of us, we picture this lush garden somewhere in the ancient Middle East. But the story we're unpacking today suggests that the first Eden, the original, was something way more ancient and cosmic.
So, to really understand the garden we all know about, we have to go back. I mean, way back. Before Genesis chapter 1, to an Eden that existed right near the throne of God itself.
That's right. Long before humanity was even a thought, a cataclysmic event went down in the heavenly realm. A brilliant, powerful angelic being, the chief worship leader no less, decided he wanted the top job for himself.
Now get this. When the prophet Ezekiel says this, he's not talking to Adam. He's talking to the being we now know as Lucifer. And he says he was in Eden, the garden of God. But this Eden, this one wasn't made of dirt and trees.
And you can see just how different they were. The heavenly Eden wasn't a garden like we think of it. It was the throne zone, a place of unimaginable divine glory, filled with jewels and fire and light. The garden on earth, that was created to be a portal zone. Think of it like a heavenly embassy on physical land. Two very different places, with two totally different functions.
So what could possibly go wrong in a perfect, heavenly place like that? Well, the same thing that trips us up all the time: pride. Right in the heart of this incredible being, this desire began to grow, not just to serve God, but to be God. And here it is. This is basically his declaration of war, recorded by the prophet Isaiah. 5 defiant "I will" statements that sealed his fate and kicked off a conflict that would eventually spill over onto our little planet.
So when Lucifer gets kicked out of heaven, where does he land? Well, according to this view, he lands right here, on Earth. But it wasn't the beautiful blue marble we know today. His fall turned it into an exile zone, a chaotic wasteland, exactly what Genesis describes as formless and void. A broken planet, now ruled by a fallen prince.
Okay, so if Earth is now this chaotic mess, what's God's move? He doesn't scrap the project. No. He starts a massive restoration, and he begins with one very special piece of real estate: a garden portal. Now, this is a huge paradigm shift. It means Genesis 1 isn't necessarily about creation from nothing, but about God recreating. He's bringing order to a world already shattered by rebellion. He finds this ruined planet and says, "Let there be light." This is a rescue mission. And the Garden of Eden on Earth was ground zero for this reclamation. Think of it less like a simple park and more like a portal zone. It was this incredible, unique bridge between the realms, the one spot on a broken planet where heaven's reality could touch physical soil, where God could literally walk and talk with his new creation, humanity. Which brings us to us. Humanity's role in this whole cosmic drama. See, Adam and Eve weren't just the first farmers. They were handed a position of absolutely staggering power and authority. So get that image of primitive cave people out of your head. This perspective sees Adam and Eve as these radiant beings, literally cloaked in coats of light and glory. They were heaven's official ambassadors, running the headquarters of God's government on earth. Their job? To expand that little portal of heaven across the whole planet.
And that's why the serpent shows up in the garden. He sees these beings, made from simple dust, carrying the light and the authority that he lost. The temptation was never really about a piece of fruit. Come on, the fruit was just the bait. What he was really after was their legal authority over planet Earth.
And tragically, the plan worked. But what humanity lost that day was so much bigger than a beautiful home. The real loss was the gate, the portal. That open, direct connection between heaven and earth was slammed shut. Which makes you wonder, right? Why would God stick this terrifying angel with a flaming sword to block the way back in? I mean, that seems like a pretty harsh punishment. But the answer, in this view, is just wow. It wasn't an act of anger. It was an act of profound mercy. Think about it. If Adam and Eve in their new corrupted state had managed to get back in and eat from the tree of life, they would have lived forever in that broken condition. They would have immortalized sin. So God sealed the gate to protect the plan, to protect the possibility of a future rescue.
So for thousands of years, that gate stayed sealed. Humanity was in exile, separated from the presence of God. But a rescue mission was always in the works, and that brings us to the last part of this incredible story, the way back home.
The first Adam gave away the keys and lost the gate. So God sent a second Adam, Yahshua, Jesus, who came to succeed where the first one failed, to live a perfect life and pry open that way back to God.
And look at how it happens. You can just trace the moments this portal starts ripping back open. At his baptism, the heavens literally tear open. At his death, the veil in the temple, that giant curtain separating God from man, is torn in two from top to bottom. And at his resurrection, the very glory humanity lost is restored and made available to us again. The portal was officially back in business.
So let's just recap this whole epic saga. It starts with Lucifer's fall, which turns Earth into an exile zone. Then God gives Adam his assignment inside a portal garden. Sin slams that gate shut. But then the second Adam shows up to begin the restoration. And through his life, death, and resurrection, the portal, the way back to God, is finally reopened for good.
And this is the part that really matters for us today. The job isn't finished. The original assignment that God gave to Adam has now been handed back to those who follow Jesus, to be heaven's representatives on earth, to push back the darkness, and to learn how to walk with God in glory all over again.
And the story ends right where it all began, in a garden. The book of Revelation promises that one day the tree of life will be standing there again, not locked away, but right in the middle of a new earth, where the separation is gone forever and God and humanity get to walk together face to face.
So what if the Garden of Eden wasn't just a story about a place we lost, but a blueprint for a purpose that we are meant to reclaim? Maybe it was never truly lost. It's just been waiting for us to pick up the assignment again. Thanks so much for diving into this with me.